Our final session is about the next stack. Modern GPUs drive new infrastructure beyond data centers and LLMs. Is an AI operating system emerging? One that spans models, data, middleware, frameworks, tools, and runtimes to enable compound AI systems and intelligent applications? This panel explores building intelligence at scale in production. Let's welcome Insight Partners Managing Director Ganesh Bell, joined by Alexis Bjorlin of NVIDIA, Ian Webster of PromptFu, Jody Clayton of Oracle, and Naveen Rao recently of Databricks.
Obviously, you heard from a lot of people today. One thing's pretty clear is everything's being reimagined, right? And yes, the software layers feel it's getting reimagined, but if you go all the way down to the silicon, all the way to the applications, everything's getting reimagined, and we think an entire new stack is sort of emerging. And talking to one of your people, he gave me a great soundbite. It was like, most people's mental model of GPU compute isn't quite yet there. They think of GPU cloud as just a faster cloud. It's not. It's a fundamentally new architecture, right? And then adding AI and agents to your existing code base or idea isn't just an extension. It's a fundamental reimagination. And so we have people here on the panel. I'll do a quick intro. People who have lived experiences at various layers of the stack. Alexis runs DGX Cloud at NVIDIA. And everybody knows them. It's a small little company. And Ian is building a critical component of the next stack, which is a bottleneck for building real AI applications at scale in AI security. Jody works at Oracle, represents all the Oracle applications, but also Oracle's as a business is in every layer of the stack. Naveen is a very interesting person who started in silicon, moved up and did Mosaic ML as a founder and sold it to Databricks and infused AI all the way into the data layer, and now has decided to jump back into building the next compute hardware infrastructure. So we'll come back to that. So maybe I'll open with Alexis. So obviously, NVIDIA gave birth to this modern accelerated computing, and you see a whole ecosystem of things that are emerging right now, right? Can you walk us through, most people probably don't understand NVIDIA besides the GPU infrastructure. You run DGX Cloud. What are you doing at the foundational layers? And what role are you playing in the broader AI infrastructure as you see it? What are your ambitions? Because you're also building up the stack. And what changes are you seeing? What shifts are you seeing?
Excellent. So yes, I appreciate you recognizing. NVIDIA has been transforming into an AI infrastructure company globally. I know we heard from Nebius's CRO earlier today. We are seeing a huge investment across the board into AI infrastructure, which is really at its heart transforming manufacturing and economies. So when you think about it, what we've shared our perspective on has been that we're moving traditional manufacturing of goods to the manufacturing of intelligence, to the generation of tokens. It's actually vital to sovereign economies. So I think what we're seeing is that there are a lot of fundamental ingredients that are needed to realize the vision of deploying AI at scale, which if you look at it as this massive global supply chain, it really starts with power. I think that theme will come up a lot and has come up a lot today. It starts with access to power, land, data center. Then you get into the systems and all the way down to the silicon. So when we think about full stack, it's truly a full stack. And what we're seeing is that the AI clouds, it's difficult to adopt AI clouds without that full stack capability, and we need to innovate at every layer. So I think in DGX Cloud is not a business, so to speak. It is NVIDIA's exemplar cloud. So the way that we approach the ecosystem as a whole is, we want to enable the deployment of compute. We want to enable it to be used efficiently to be able to turn it into revenue. So part of our recent, Jensen will always say, the more you spend, the more you make. So for a $3 million investment in compute over the following 3 years, you should be able to make $30 million in revenue on that. So at DGX Cloud, our goal is to help the ecosystem understand. We want to promote the ecosystem. Only build what is not built already. And we provide, I run our internal infrastructure, and we build a full stack capability, and we use the ecosystem wherever possible. So we then identify gaps in the layers where we'll build tooling and we'll open source it, or we'll give it out to the community. So our largest goal is to be NVIDIA's exemplar cloud, which is optimized performance for any user landing their cloud-based workloads on NVIDIA anywhere globally.
And Jody, your company obviously is building infrastructure at a massive scale with OCI, and we got to hear from Chad, but you're also closer to the applications with customers, building and deploying agents and transforming their enterprise. What do you see at that application layer where, are the customers just adding AI to the infrastructure? Are people building more things than they were building in the past?
Yeah, so a couple things I would start with. One is, and we've heard it a few times already today, and that is that in order to do AI well, you need to have high quality data you can trust. You need to have some place to process that data, so the infrastructure. And one of the most important pieces, we heard it a couple times, Ethan mentioned it earlier, was business process knowledge. So I think there's a few of us in here that have been through a few major trends, technology trends, and we've all seen people take the wrong technology to solve a business challenge. So my favorite is workflow when it came out in the early 2000s. And everybody was so excited to take workflow and process engineer everything to death. So you had multiple approvals, parallel approvals, auto negs, vacation holds, all that kind of stuff. And instead of actually increasing productivity, you actually decreased it. So from an Oracle perspective, since we've been managing people's data for multiple decades, including the enterprise business processes, and we've had the technology at our fingertips, we've been able to take and embed and infuse those agentic capabilities into our application. So thousands of our customers are using them already today. We obviously partner with NVIDIA from a chip perspective, and we are seeing customers eyes wide open, understand how you can unlock the possibilities with your data. And it's not only the data that's in the applications, but it's data that's not sitting inside of our business applications, but connecting it through different agents. So I've worked on a prototype for the last couple of weeks for a customer, and it was all around unlocking some of the foundational capabilities in our applications. And we have another peer group that was doing some work on their other data that's not necessarily sitting in our applications. And when we presented it to the CTO and eventually the CEO, they're like, wow, I can see how this can all come together to solve really big business challenges that we haven't been able to do before.
So
I can jump in a little bit on
yeah,
that.
go ahead.
Actually, at Databricks is a bit of the pitch that we would talk about was sort of the desassification a little bit of the world, like where you grew up in this place where every application kind of built their own foundation because they had to store data, and it was just kind of a practical thing, and everything became verticalized and siloed. And so kind of what Jody's talking about is like, now you need to somehow break those silos. So if you put connections between all of them, you end up with this like combinatorial problem. Let's say you have 50 SaaS tools. If you do all-to-all connections, it's ridiculous. You can't do that. So what you really have to do is re-architect the whole thing and say, I'm going to have a common data foundation, and then you start to build these verticalizations on top of that. And then you actually have no silos when you come to contextualizing AI. That was a large part of the pitch at Databricks as well, is that once you build a solid foundation, now you can build agents that actually cut across them and you can fully govern them. So I think that's a trend that it's going to take a while to break that. It's not a simple thing for companies to do.
So Ian, react to that, like when people are building on those new layers, right? There's a modern data layer like Databricks, and I have a new architecture of bringing structured, unstructured, and I've decided to go build with Oracle infrastructure, NVIDIA infrastructure. What is the first thing that breaks? Because you're working with like Fortune 500 companies, where do they hit the wall in terms of building AI and being able to deploy it in production? Because we hear a lot of pilots and then nothing getting to production or very little getting to production.
Yeah, so there's a lot of layers to that cake, right? And I think what we've talked about so far is very much like model layer down, but where the rubber meets the road is when you actually create the interaction between the model and your applications. that's where, I mean, that's where we focused our work, but that's also where I see the most friction in terms of what's actually going to get AI out the door. So to put that in more concrete terms, you can have all the geniuses in the world at OpenAI and Anthropic, working on basic model security, model safety problems, but there are so many ways that you can shoot yourself in the foot when you start to hook up those models to PII or give them access to certain functions, that kind of thing. So what I see in my experience is that's kind of the tripwire or the scary part for a lot of enterprises as they're rolling out AI. If you don't have a plan for AI security that is full stack, from runtime all the way through to CI/CD, pre-deployment, and your model and its supply chain, then you're going to have a hard time building any sort of sustainable applications on top of AI.
Yeah, because that's today is not heterogeneous. It's like every model provider building their own security layer, whereas the way you are all seeing the ecosystem is a heterogeneous world. Maybe we'll jump back to at the hardware layer and the infrastructure. You believe there's a whole new optimization that's possible. Can you share a little bit about what you're doing with your next company and what's the thesis? Just pitch. Yeah. I'm sure you have raised capital, so go ahead.
A little bit. Rumors abound, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's an opportunity to actually rethink the entire problem. I mean, just bear with me for a second here, but if you look at where we came from in terms of why computers were invented to begin with, there were literal people who had a job of computer. That was a job description. Yeah, kind of maybe a short-lived one, I don't know, but they would do things like missile trajectory calculations and things like this. That was actually the first application. That's why we built computers, to do that faster. And so the calculations in a very kind of tight context and predictability was why we built a computer. And so eventually we started doing things like spreadsheets and other applications that started manipulating text and then graphics. So if you think about where we came from and then where we're going, they're actually somewhat different. Intelligence as an application is not like these other applications. Intelligence isn't this precise, I need bit for bit accuracy. It's not, determinism is not actually part of it. In fact, if you go ask ChatGPT the same question 100 times, you will get 100 different answers. It is a stochastic thing. So kind of rethinking, why do we have this stochastic thing built upon a whole bunch of deterministic elements that then go run on the physics of hardware that is actually stochastic? So why don't we just break that stack and start running AI on kind of the physics of the hardware and make something that's vastly more efficient? That's what we're working on, is rethinking the entire foundations of a computer to make it more efficient.
So is that like a new chip? Is that what's the angle here?
It is a new chip. It's a new.
Does that compete with NVIDIA or?
We love NVIDIA. I mean, look, I think we all have a problem in terms of power. It's unprecedented. We've never been in a place where computing power is bound by energy at the world level. That affects NVIDIA and affects everybody. So we have to solve this problem. This is a technology problem to solve. And competing or not, if we don't solve this problem, we can't keep scaling AI. So I look at it less like who's competing with who, and kind of from a foundational technology standpoint, how do we fix that? And then we'll go fight about the market.
Yeah, I mean, just to add into that, I mean, I think one of the most important things that we know about AI right now is that performance per TCO is how we need to look at this. So, NVIDIA's built a highly programmable, capable GPU. There's a lot of custom silicon that's application specific that people are making specifically to reduce power consumption and improve per TCO for a specific application. But no model is backwards compatible. The world is moving at a very fast pace. So we have to think about how do we grow the AI infrastructure in a way that we can continually improve it from a power efficiency perspective. We announced recently CPX, which is a new inference chip, disaggregating, when you take an inference workload, it's in a prefill and a decode phase. One is highly memory intensive, the other is compute intensive. So we ourselves have just announced this chip just a few weeks ago at the AI at Scale Summit. that radically improves, how you actually can utilize inference at perf per TCO. But it requires the full stack optimization, because when you think about it at a global scale, people are now, no longer single cloud, they're multi-cloud, multi-region, multi-cloud. So it becomes an AI orchestration, a global AI orchestration problem of the future. So I think there's innovation at every layer that will allow us to optimize and consume all of the compute that's being deployed.
So just the acceleration you're doing obviously has brought cost per token down dramatically. And Naveen, what you're saying is with the innovation that you're going to go pursue, I, as a consumer or an application builder, will basically see the cost of inference fall dramatically faster.
Yeah, I think every technology has to go through this transition. It's kind of like it was observed when electricity became cheaper, Jevons paradox. Basically, just really quickly, what that states is that if you make something cheaper, when they observed when they made electricity cheaper, like make it half the price, people actually don't spend half as much, or actually even less. They spend more on electricity. And the reason is that when something drops, it becomes more applicable. So we actually want this to happen with AI. I think the way we use AI today is actually kind of dumb. It's not baked into like a lot of processes. It's like this very explicit thing I have to go type a text query into. It's fine for certain things, but it's not really adding intelligence to our lives in many ways. So we need the cost to drop a lot for it to be infused in many applications. And that's really this Jevons paradox thing. If we drop the cost by to a tenth of what it is today, all of a sudden it'll be applicable to so many things. Right now, the latencies, the cost, like accessibility of this stuff it's just not there. It's very, very early.
But it's good enough to kind of go build on so many layers, right?
Yeah.
And so when you guys are seeing, especially Jody and Ian, when you're seeing people build end applications, I have two questions for you. There's this tension in the enterprises that always been, which we're going to go buy more or build more. How are people allocate their dollars? So we're going to buy things that are commodity, but build things that are unique. However they frame it, there's going to be people that are going to be building a lot of things because the cost of building and how you build is also changing. You're a part of the ecosystem, Ian. Do you see a whole new programming model, whole new infrastructure, framework, scaffolding, tooling that is actually needed, or do we just need OpenAI and Microsoft, and that's primarily it?
Oh yeah,
And also, Jody, to react to that, obviously, Oracle has infrastructure business. I also want you have a large applications real estate to go protect. There is this idea that add AI and distribute won the last year or two, but now that shows cracks and people are off to go building things surrounding their existing applications. So it'll be good to get your take.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I think the future looks like a huge mix of different frameworks, different methods, different techniques. They will all kind of grow organically. A lot of it is going to be open source. And then, of course, there are like commercial approaches as well. I don't see this as something that can be verticalized by any of the big companies or the foundation labs. There's just simply too much going on. There's too much going into open source. And ultimately, a lot of it is going to shift into the hands of developers who are making these implementation decisions. That's my 2 cents there.
Okay.
And I would say two things. One is buy what you can, build what you can't. And so we talked a lot about horizontal productivity. So your back office type applications and business processes. And then you have the vertical ones or the customer facing ones that really make your business unique. Those are the ones you should invest in building out the, what's he doing over here? in building out the capabilities that you need that are going to make your business unique. Because doing AI is hard.
But, can I put you in the hat of many people here who are, they started their company pre-AI, right? The last 2 years, yes, they all added some chat user experience. They built some Copilot experience. And then they have to go force themselves to reimagine. I'm going to ask directly, does Oracle get to protect their application real estate with just adding AI to it? Or is reimagination from the ground up needed? And do you get to do it, or somebody else does it and you buy them?
So I think we're doing both. We're reimagining the applications and the functionality we're delivering and augmenting it with building what is unique to each person's business. So there's hundreds of capabilities that have been built in that one capability in isolation, the fact that I can generate a job description, is not going to give you 40% productivity for everybody in your company. However, when you take the 10 or 15 or 20 capabilities across a procurement process, it does drive that productivity, and then you can take that and focus it on things that are unique to your business. So, and then if you can use Oracle technology, our infrastructure, our data platform, to build out and augment those capabilities. That's what customers are doing, because less than 10% of people in the world are academically trained in AI, and it's hard to do, right? You got data scientist, data architect, you got to have the technology, you got to understand the whole full stack. It's hard to do. It's not easy. That's why 95% of projects are failing, or right, I'm not going to use that anymore, right? We've beat that. We've beat that survey to death, right? That article.
Not in our startups, but go ahead.
So I just think that AI is hard to do, and we're all a bunch of very smart individuals in this room, and it takes an effort to get it right.
So Alexis, what is, if you look at the ecosystem overall, obviously NVIDIA gets to win regardless of OpenAI succeeding or people building heterogeneous infrastructure on top because you've given birth to this new computer, and even Naveen feels like he still needs GPUs. So that's a good thing. You do need GPUs?
For now.
For now, okay. All right, that's good, that's good. So there's a new thing that's coming. What is it called? Maybe?
Unconventional.
Unconventional, okay. And we have a name for the chip? Like a GPU, CPU?
No, that's a ways off.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll come up with something.
But we know it's analog.
It is analog.
Okay. That is itself interesting. You should do a research. So Alexis, what is the one unsexy problem that you wish that was solved today with all the stuff that's there would 10x the application of AI or use of AI?
I would say, unsexy as
I mean, it can be sexy
hex.
too, but
No,
yeah.
it's secure multi-tenancy. Being able to have Infra IS or Infra ISV capability where all of the new clouds that are being built, whether it's the across the board, people need to drive the highest level of efficiency in the compute itself. And so I think that's one of the challenges that just isn't ubiquitous today, that if that were solved, it would drive higher efficiency and utilization.
Okay. Ian, I have no idea what you will answer to this question.
My unsexy problem is application security for AI. I think that even if we froze Alexis and Naveen in place right now, there's so much to do on the application side, and where a lot of it is falling short is just being able to get it over that last hurdle.
Jody.
I'm going with human adoption.
Oh.
People are not adopting AI. We've heard it from pretty much every speaker. And as organizations and strategic leaders and companies, we have to make people be curious. We have to give them the tools. We have to give them access to trustworthy data and encourage them and incentivize them to use it. Because if humans don't use it, we can build the coolest toys, and you're not going to get the value you're expecting.
Naveen, what's your take?
Well, I'll say an unsexy thing, but I'm going to convince you that it's sexy.
Okay.
Energy efficiency. Sounds unsexy, right?
One person.
All right, I got it. Come on, I'll take it.
You paid him.
I paid him. Here's your $10. Yeah, I think it's like you have the off-sited 20 watts that human brains run on. That's great. That's very interesting. It's a topic that led me into my whole academic career. But one thing I'll leave you with is just go watch a squirrel for a moment outside your window. I had a window when I was a kid. There were lots of squirrels in a tree, and I just watched them all the time. They can jump 10 feet, branch to branch, land on something 5 millimeters wide, and do it 1,000 times out of 1,000 perfectly with wind moving branches. They do that on 1/10 of a watt. Their brain runs in less than 1/10 of a watt. There's not a single computer we have that runs on a gigawatt that can do that performance right now. So we are very, very far away from what biology is.
So far away from squirrel AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So squirrels, appreciate the squirrels.
Yeah, appreciate the squirrel. And actually, that's a good note to end on in terms of, it's obviously super exciting from, all of us geeks and people who are builders and business imagineers can talk about it, but it's super clear with a lot of that the next stack for computing is clearly emerging. It's a fundamentally new architecture, all the way down to the silicon, to the applications. And it's also clear that while things are moving super fast, it's not settled, all the building blocks you kind of need to start reimagining businesses, software, industries, categories are already here. And also, don't forget about squirrel. And the only limit, clearly, like Jody, like you said, is the human ability to reimagine this possibility. So with that, thanks for coming to ScaleUp AI. Have a wonderful rest of the evening. Thank you to my panelists. Yeah.